Hey, Sean here, right before the episode. Just wanted to say that if you thought you saw this video go up already, there was a slight issue. Pro tip for anyone doing any sort of modulation: if you pitch shift a voice at all, make sure you do preserve duration. Check that box, or else it will desync your audio and it'll sound really bad. But it's all fixed now. This video should be good to go, and enjoy this conversation with Omnipotent. And we don't mention it in the video in great detail just because we know each other. But if you're not aware, Omnipotent is an insider with From Software who posted on Reset Era before deactivating his account last year, and he basically gave us a series of posts on Reset Era that are like our only other semi-reliable information. And while development changes and some of what he written may change, he was always very careful to be not too specific and try to give an idea of Elden Ring. And that's sort of what we discuss in this video here. So I hope you enjoy it. And as you will hear, his voice has been modulated to just preserve anonymity at his request. So, but I think it sounds pretty good. It's pretty listenable now. It's not desynced, and hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks. Why, hello there. Today is day 605 of watching the Elden Ring trailer. 605 days since it was first announced at E3 2019. And I have a very special guest on with me today. Um, you know him as Omnipotent, and hello, Omnipotent. Thanks for coming on.
What up? Yeah, just to kind of get this out of the way, so, people don't know, since, I'm sure my voice will be a bit fucky, and very few people have ever heard my voice or have any way to confirm that this is actually me, but, before I deleted my account on Era, I actually made friends with Lore, sometime early last year. I think this would be 2020. And we've been just good friends ever since, so he's asked me to come on, and I figured, why not? So,
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to have you on. And just to get it out of the way for people tuning in voraciously, there's not going to be any big bombs dropped. We're not. We're hanging out. Good vibes only. There's no big leaks happening or anything, but so if you're looking for the big scoop, it's not happening here. Just hanging out. And one thing before we get into our first our question before the trailer is this year, I feel like with the community, it's just an increasing since TGA, two TGAs now. There's just the community is obviously just brimming over the edge wanting to see more information, as we all are. And, you know, there's just a lot of stuff going around about when things show up. And, you know, what is your take on how this year may go in the foreseeable future?
uh, I mean, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to get myself in trouble,
For
but
sure.
I know that certain individuals have been getting a little excited and sharing that excitement with their communities, and I think some people may be getting a little ahead of themselves. Uh, but I mean, I don't want to make any promises on when things are going to happen or whatnot, but I think that people might want to settle down a little bit just for a little while.
Yeah, and I know people feel differently, but that's good for me. I go live my life. It's just that's how I'm approaching it anyways cuz I feel like anytime I try and figure out when I might see stuff about Elden Ring or what Elden Ring might do, it throws me a curveball and it almost feels like it's actively out to do the opposite of whatever I want it to do. So it's better for me just to wait.
Oh, I feel you, man. If I thought things were going to go the way they've gone, then I definitely would not have made my numerous extra long posts as early as I did.
Yeah, it's I feel, and it's really I feel like things from a very early stage, including COVID, just have thrown them in it's thrown them a curveball as it's thrown the entire world a curveball, so
Yeah.
so it's at this point I'm just like, just produce a good thing, and I'm personally happy to wait until they're within range of just hitting the ground hard and then giving it to us. I prefer that, like, Bethesda style, like, here, we're going to show something. And I don't know if Elden Ring is going to do that, but I'd prefer that as opposed to them not leaking, like, just eking out tiny bits of information over the last year and then knowing it wasn't actually going to be out. So I kind of prefer the silence, to be
Yeah,
honest.
again, I don't know how much I can say. I don't want to have hunters show up at my door, but
Yeah.
I know a few months ago I did say that I heard some good news and that From did have your backs and whatnot, and I still stand by that. And it was more about what, more so than when. But yeah, good things are coming. I can say that, and I'm pretty excited about what's planned. But yeah, I'd say just for now, right this second, maybe settle down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is if anything, if the game is not canceled, I'm happy. The game is not canceled, so it's all good. It'll happen when it happens.
Yeah.
So, but the question, moving away from those topics, getting into our question for today, Mystic Missy and Nauda. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, Nauda. We got a few people asking, so, being an open world game, how will that influence the Souls style combat, and our thoughts on the weapons and the spell variety? And, if you weren't on, I would be quoting you anyways, because you've said a little bit about that. So, what are your thoughts on the open world nature of Elden Ring and how that will influence the Souls combat? And then stuff about weapons and magic.
um. Well, I wouldn't expect in terms of like raw combat mechanics things to be too radically different. Like this game, again, I've said before, but Elden Ring is to Dark Souls what Dark Souls is to Demon Souls. It's kind of the next step in that lineage. So it's still heavily based off a lot of the same framework, including combat. But I think what makes combat a bit more interesting in an open world setting is the fact that it is an open world setting, if that kind of makes sense. So, like in Dark Souls, a lot of the enemies are pretty static. They don't really move. There's a few late in the later games that will move around and roam slightly, but you're generally going through hallways or dressed up hallways. Um,
Yep.
you're in slightly bigger areas to memorize enemy locations and whatnot, and figure stuff out that way. And you kind of base how you approach combat around that. But in an open world setting, you kind of have more freedom to approach different situations. But similarly, enemies also have more freedom to choose how they engage with the player. So I think I've said this before on
Mm-hmm.
Era, but I talked about improved AI. I know there's some AI that have some tricks up their sleeves, like I think I mentioned, I don't remember exactly what I said since it's been a while
Yeah.
now, but like an enemy might go and gather um comrades, I suppose, before engaging with you, and like stuff like that. So I think improved AI, the open space, and just some other. There are some mechanical differences that will allow for combat to change a bit. I don't want to get too much into those though specifically,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's just more so stuff like that that will make combat a bit more interesting this time. It's just the fact that the environments that you'll be traversing are a bit different and designed a bit differently, as well as the enemies are designed a bit differently to kind of what's the word? Uh
Just kind of accommodate that open world. The fact that
yeah,
they're in
yeah.
an open field this time.
Yeah, for sure. for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's the general sense I got from what I've seen you say on Era, and then just from Miyazaki's interviews, is that it's really Soul's foundation, like you said, from demons to dark, but it's being presented in a different space. And during my day job, I'm an architect, and I can certainly appreciate the fact that the way you experience a space is based on how they intend you to move through it. And in Dark Souls, like you're saying, you have these corridors or dressed up corridors. Even Dark Souls 3, which started to get a little bit more open feeling, came down to like route A, B, or C, maybe like through the undead settlement. But they were still very planned encounters. Besides maybe Central Yharnam and Bloodborne, we haven't really seen like roaming enemies, like people, really pursuing you. We haven't seen the type of opportunities that are presented when it's not just like chess pieces on a board, but more of a. It sounds more of a living world, and it sounds like the day night cycle may also play into that, where the the enemies won't only move around just because their AI is better and they're treated more like living creatures, but also creatures and layouts may change depending on the time of day, which seems like From Software could do a lot with that. And I'm assuming if From Software is going to put in a day night cycle, they're going to do something with that. We'll see the final product, but that's all very exciting. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm very excited to see how people react to that when they get to actually see the game and see,
yeah.
and then get the game in their hands as well. But that's something I'm particularly excited about is the day and night cycle and how things will change with the time of day. And
Yeah.
I know they've kind of been playing with that in a more static sense in both Bloodborne and Sekiro. But it should be pretty well, I guess, and Dark Souls 3 in terms of Lothric.
Yep.
But it should be interesting to see that in a more dynamic sense and real time sense rather than something that's triggered by events and whatnot. So
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be super interesting. And then, of course, when it comes to combat, we already know that, like, horse combat, Miyazaki mentioned, to some level there is horse combat, whether that's you jumping off the horse or how much they're going to work that out. Like, I think
yeah,
when.
there will be mounted enemies as well as
Mm,
the player being able to mount. So there should
yeah.
definitely be some
Yeah.
interesting things coming from that.
Yeah, and you may have a better perspective on it than I do, but like when you're thinking about, like, I think people expect a really radical change, and this Soul series has always felt different just based off of minute changes, and they've been different. Like Dark Souls 1 through 3 do feel different from each other, but in minute ways. And I think someone might hear, oh, the foundation is going to be kind of the same as like Dark Souls 3, for instance. And that might feel disappointing, but like, imagine having a horse and tackling mounted combat. Like, that's radically different for From. And then imagining them now dealing with an open world. Like, I think those changes are going to play into the moment to moment combat in a much bigger way than someone might think when they're maybe hoping for, like, like I hear people say like, oh, are they going to introduce like Sekiro elements? And it's like, well, Sekiro was going for a specific thing. It was going for a depth of combat, whereas Elden Ring, the key word has been breadth. There's going to be more magic, more weapons. So the basics of combat are probably going to be kind of Dark Souls-ish, like Demon Souls to Dark Souls. Like, they don't feel totally different, but there are significant changes into what you do in the world. Like, having a lot of people have recently played Demon Souls Remake. Like, Demon Souls and Dark Souls have the same core, but they're pretty different experiences overall.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that well, to address the Sekiro thing in particular, I think that people getting excited about Sekiro combat in Elden Ring, I think that is maybe getting a bit ahead of themselves because, like you said, it focused on something specific, and the thing about Sekiro is you play the game as a specific character with a specific build and a specific weapon, and you can augment your character in different ways with your shinobi tools, but ultimately you're still playing Sekiro and you're using a katana,
Yeah.
and the you can't really like the combat mechanics in Sekiro work really well because of that. But the thing with that is like it's hard to translate that to something more Dark Souls-ish because you have actual RPG mechanics where you can make a build with any type of character that you want and use essentially any type of weapon that you want.
Yeah.
So like trying to balance that is ridiculously difficult, and trying to make it work for everyone, like it just doesn't really make sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like like the sword clashing mechanics, like it's cool and it works for sword builds, but like then what do magic users get, you know?
Yeah.
Like they kind
Exactly.
of get just fucked over. So yeah, you can't really. I wouldn't really expect combat to change too radically in like a direction like that. But I know that there still will be new mechanics to for them
Hmm.
for combat that they have implemented that players can play around with. But
Yeah.
they just wanted to work with something that works for everyone and works more in the action RPG setting rather than something that's more specific to an action game. So
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It's like when people want, like, especially the the whole like clashing system, the deflection mechanic, like it's a really awesome mechanic. But I recall during the Game Informer coverage leading up to Sekiro's release, like they were saying like they had to tweak like frame by frame sometimes, like attacks from enemies and stuff, just because the whole game was built around being able to deflect. Like it wasn't a simple like let's turn deflection on, which deflection, for anyone curious, is stamina repurposed as far as their engine is concerned. Like it's called stamina internally in their engine, and they just reworked it. So it's like you can see how, I know people would be disappointed if it's not in, but like Dark Souls is going for a breadth of different things, and it sounds like they're really trying to make your options meaningful and provide more weapons. And it sounds like they're probably going to do stuff with the magic system and try and rework that. Like just because like the lore, it sounds like it's a more magical world, so magic may serve a different purpose mechanically too, and it might be more interesting. I'm just speculating there, of course, but just to get that idea of it's really a breadth of options as an RPG versus an action game, and I sort of see those as two branches, versus thinking of this at all as like an evolution of Sekiro, which Miyazaki specifically said it's an evolution of Dark Souls.
yeah, for sure. And to return to your previous topic of like the fact those minutia of changing things more ways than people might think. Like I know like some people are probably going to be disappointed at that. Oh, and say like this game looks a lot like Dark Souls and it plays a lot like Dark Souls. Why not just call it Dark Souls 4? But I think, like you said, those minutiae of changes are going to make a lot bigger of a difference than people realize. Like, again, to return to the topic of open world, like when you're designing an open world, you have to change the way, you encounter enemies and whatnot, and that makes a big difference. And then you have horse riding, and the implications of horse riding is like the areas you have to make are much
Yeah.
larger to even accommodate for that and to make it worthwhile. And like Miyazaki's talked about the game being open field, and it's like I just think that some people aren't really taking into account how much of a radical change some of these changes
Yeah.
can make, even if the game is still very similar to its predecessors, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be interesting because it doesn't help when people have a long time to think about what they would want out of a game. And everyone's guilty of it. And with every release, like with Sekiro, there was people worried about the changes from that they were seeing from Sekiro because they were into Dark Souls. And I think it's one of those things like once you get it in your hands, it'll feel really good. But I can imagine that From is really trying to make sure that this feels fresh is as many ways as possible. But with that core, and when thinking about them showing stuff, it's got to be wicked hard necessarily to get that all across, especially because they're working in their usual From Software engine. So it's going to look like a From Software ass game. like,
Yeah.
so even if it looks graphically improved, I'm assuming somewhere in the range, better than Dark Souls 3, maybe in the range of Sekiro, maybe a bit improved. Not like Demon Souls remake, like I said, like definitely in a From looking game in their From engine that everyone can recognize from a million miles away. I can see how that works for them and against them in something where it's sometimes hard to make the changes obvious because it feels so familiar.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about. Is like I know a lot of people are thinking, oh well, you know that Demon Souls remake just came out and that game looks gorgeous, and so maybe they're holding back the game to improve the graphics or something. And like, I just think those assumptions are a bit ridiculous. Like at the end of the day, it's running on the same engine. It was built from the ground up for last generation consoles. It's going to look in line with Sekiro, Dark Souls 3, and especially more so the latter because, like you said, they're not only just working with the same engine, but this is a you know Western medieval um, inspired game, and it's made by the same artists that made Dark Souls 3, and they want this game to have its own identity. And if something is like too much like Dark Souls, they'll probably take it out. But at the same time, there's really only so far you can go, when you're trying to design something in the same, I guess, genre,
Mm-hmm.
but with the same inspirations, or at least the same general inspirations, but with the same artists and people working on it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't. And then the other thing is like Demon Souls remake, on the other hand, was made by fucking technical lizards at Blue Point,
Yeah.
who are amazing at what they do. Not to say that From isn't great, but graphics have never really been their strong point, and I wouldn't really expect to compare Elden Ring to a game that was made from the ground up for PS5 by
Yep.
some of the best people in the business working on graphics.
Yeah, exactly. Like Demon Souls remake was a labor of love, but it's a launch game. It was obviously made to make the PS5 look good. And it does make the PS5 look good because Demon Souls is beautiful, but they spent, 3 years or whatever with that as like a key goal was to update the graphics and make it look really good.
Yeah, and the other thing is like I know people seem to think that just porting the game to PS5 is going to suddenly make things easier, but again, the game was built from the ground up for last gen consoles, and just porting the game to next gen isn't going to change the
Mm.
graphics engine and everything else.
Yeah, and from my point of view, I'm probably gonna get it on PC anyways. But I'm cool with that because then I get it on PS5 and it'll just run better. It'll probably just get a more solid frame rate, maybe better loading times. All that good stuff that comes with the PS5. But yeah, it's not gonna magically make it into a different looking game. It's not a mod. It's just stronger hardware. So
Yeah, and I don't want to imply or mean to imply that the game doesn't have graphical upgrades compared to its predecessors, because it does, and like dynamic lighting is one of those things that I've
yeah.
mentioned previously. But I don't want anyone walking into this expecting, like Demon Souls tier graphics.
Yeah, and I think that dynamic lighting is going to be amazing. Like to this day, like From are so good at capturing a certain vista. I mentioned in a previous episode, like the first time you see Irithyll in Dark Souls 3, you're just like, wow, like holy shit, that city in the distance, that looks fucking amazing. And it's going to look even better than that, but now they're going to be focusing even more on lighting. Like that's just going to really, I think, make things pop and give just even more depth than we've seen out of like Sekiro and Dark Souls 3. And Sekiro, I thought looked really, really good. I mean, Dark Souls 3 too. Like, I just played it earlier like 6 months ago, and it looks great still. So I think just even better version of that is going to be awesome, and just the dynamic lighting and their artistry and their art direction, and them just not feeling like it may be in the same genre roughly, but they're also like doing a new IP. And while there will be tropes and stuff that just exist as part of fantasy, they're working with George R. R. Martin. They're just receiving this influx of like fresh ideas, and they're not tied to keeping a consistent world with Dark Souls. It's really this new creation, and it seems like a really good opportunity for them to just go wild from an art direction. And I think that's what's really going to make the game like just like not above Demon Souls, but when I come to games, I'm looking more for art direction than necessarily graphic prowess or technical wizardry. It's always nice, but I'll take art direction most of all, and that's something that From has never failed me on.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things I do also want to bring up in terms of like not necessarily graphics, but in terms of like visuals and atmospheres, one of the things I'm really excited about is like you said, when you first walk out of that cave and you see Earthil, it's an amazing moment. But I think Elden Ring is going to create a lot of really engaging and special moments like that, because now you not only have dynamic lighting, but you have the day and night cycle to go with that, and you also have states of weather.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be traversing through areas and they can look different at certain points of time. I think that should be pretty interesting, pretty exciting. I know it's kind of a small thing, especially considering that's like what every open world game does. But for a From Software game, like you said, with their artistry and their design, it's
Yeah.
I'm just really excited to see the reactions to that and see where I don't know how people react to that.
Yeah, like I was that weirdo that went through Bloodborne and like every conceivable combination just to see like the different times of day that you could see in different areas. So like the fact that like every time you get those framed vistas, which I'm sure From will still offer plenty sort of framed vistas that they're drawing the player to, just the fact that I could see that in day and night, dusk, dawn, raining, sunny, just like like I'm gonna be searching those things out just because the art direction for them is just sort of unmatched in my opinion, and just having this whole big world where it's always been sort of like whatever is in the distance you can kind of get to, but that's like that times 10 this time. It's all about here, there's that thing over there, and you can get to it because it's open world, and that's sort of a selling point for open world games. And just thinking of that, but like in the context of like a Souls game, whew, that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And then like once again we get back into like the idea of, enemies changing locations depending on the day or the night time, and like roaming enemies and whatnot. And I think like again it's just all of these things are like relatively small on their own, but put together I think it just makes something, like you said, like a more living, breathing world. And I think that should just be really exciting, because a big part of what makes these games so special is that journey and just traversing these worlds, and having the world you're traversing be a lot more alive and I guess vivid should I don't know, just make the experience more special. Like I've known about this game for years prior to even the announcement, and it's always been like a dream game for me, because this
Yeah.
is like all the things I could possibly ask for are in this game.
Yeah.
Like this is all I've ever really wanted out of a FromSoft game. So really the only place they could go from here is just adding like more, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even just getting George R. R. Martin, like which I've said before, is like just having a like professional world builder coming in to build a world for you to make a story and play around in is just like what a great scenario, just because it gives From the resources to focus on doing what they do really well while giving off this portion of work to someone who's a lifetime expert at doing what they do. And it's and I like the infusion just of new ideas, because I'm playing Kingsfield 4 right now, and when I go to save, I save at like this Seath statue, and the Seath statues look almost identical to Dark Lurker from Dark Souls 2, and it's just like, oh yeah, From has been telling the same story in different ways since like fucking 1995, and I think that's totally fine, and I like their self-referential nature, but I am excited to see what having George R. R. Martin in there, how he will sort of help mix it up and provide them
Yeah,
just
for
with
sure.
new shit to do.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things I'm most excited about as well. Like for me, I'm not really a PvP guy. That's not what I come to these games for. I'm not even good at these games, if I'm being honest. I'm not great, but the lore, the world, just traversing these areas, and those are my those are the things that really get me excited. It's
Yeah.
like living in an actual fantasy world, or at least as close as we're gonna get until holodeck VR comes out. But yeah, George R. R. Martin is just a phenomenal writer and phenomenal world builder, and he's easily one of my favorites. Like I've always been a fantasy guy, sci-fi fantasy guy since I was a kid. I remember, the first time I read The Hobbit in like middle school, and I was just enamored with that world.
Mhm.
And so to have someone like George R. R. Martin come in and work on the lore with From is just crazy to me. Like the first time I heard that, I was like, "You're fucking around, right? Like there's no way that's real."
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to delving more into myself.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. That's what I'm here for. I can't wait just to get all that new stuff. So with that, I think we should watch the trailer. I'm feeling the vibes. I think it's trailer time.
All right, sounds good.
So let's watch this day 605. All right.
I love how George R. R. Martin's name just pops up like that.
I know. It's so good. I mean, even when you like knew it was going to happen from like leaks, I still didn't believe it until I saw it written there.
Yeah.
I doubt you could even imagine it.
I gotta say, this is easily my favorite narrator so far as well.
He does such a good job. I hope there's more of his
That which
voice in the
commanded
game, whether it's
skies,
more in the cutscene or
giving
he's a
life
character.
its
I love his
fullest
voice.
brilliance.
And the music,
Oh,
just
yeah.
immaculate.
Yeah, like I hope that this is carried. This is the tone, percussive and like horns. I really dig it.
Or something.
I really wonder if, like, they
Don't tell
intentionally
me
tried to
you don't see
rhyme
it.
that.
Yeah.
Look up at the sky. It burns.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen this trailer that many times, but watching it again is putting a smile on my face.
Yeah, it's a damn good trailer, just as good as day one. That's I say it every day, but with that music and everything, it's so good. If
Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring.
I know the big thing, and especially talking about open world right now, I'm just like the one thing I'm missing is like seeing the fucking world. I can't wait to get a landscape, and just because it's going to tell us so much about the rest of the game is seeing a landscape, and I know that they're hiding it. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, but I can say, trust me, they know what the fans want to see.
Yeah.
So, I guess you guys can be excited about that.
Yeah, and I asked this to people joining on, but do you have a favorite part of this trailer?
Uh, huh. Yeah, I'm not really sure because I do like the whole thing, and
Mm.
it is the intro to the game, like a cut down version of the intro to the game. If people didn't know that, so but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cliche to say the whole thing, but I do genuinely really like the whole thing.
It is a series of parts. Like if you didn't have the narrator, you'd lose a lot. The music is adding into it, but then it's just like this nice montage of cool images that don't say too much as it's edited, but is at the same time really evocative. Like gets your brain going. So
Yeah, if I had to pick, I guess it'd be Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring, shattered by someone or something.
oh yeah,
I
just that
just I
gesture.
love that line,
Mm-hmm.
especially the way it's narrated. Like it's
Yeah,
just
it's good stuff. Well, there you have it. Day 605 of watching the trailer. Thank you for the question, and stay tuned tomorrow where Omnipotent and I will be continuing to talk about online components, PvP, and co op. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.